India and US has announced a historic trade deal wherein United States will impose 18% tariff on all Indian goods, down from 50 odd percent, and in return, India would be charging nearly 0% tariff on all US imports. Joining me today is an eminent panel from CII, Mr. Rajiv Memani, who is the president of CII, Mr. Rajiv Budhia, who is the chairman CII National Committee on Exports, and he's MD of Patent International, and Mr. V Noushad, who is the chair, CII Task Force on Footwear, and he's the CEO and founder of Valkaru International. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on ET Now. Mr. Memani, to begin with, sir, it has been nearly 6 to 8 months of hectic negotiation, after which we have arrived at this tariff rate. How do you sum up the entire negotiation and the ultimate, the result which has come in?
I think, I mean, overall, I would say, let me focus on the result. It's hard to sum up how the negotiation was. Negotiations are never interesting. But I think the outcome and the results are more important. I would say that from an overall economy standpoint, obviously this impacts roughly some $50 billion of trade, merchandise trade. So I think just from an overall economy standpoint, it's an important number, but I don't think it's that significant a number. But if you look at impacted sectors, which are the labor-intensive sectors, like garments, textiles, leather, auto components, engineering, marine fisheries, and others, I think for them it's really important because a lot of them were exporting to US, and we could see that in the last 3 to 6 months, since the tariff was imposed, their sales and revenues were declining because they were not as competitive as compared to the other countries where the tariff rate was much lower. So to that extent, this tariff of 18%, which is a very competitive rate, I think that's been very positive. So we must thank our Honorable Prime Minister, our Commerce Minister, for patiently, going through holding their ground, patiently discussing the pros and cons of this trade deal with the US, and finally coming at an answer which I do believe will be positive for both the countries. The third thing I would like to add was that in any conversations that we were having, even amongst industry, between industry and government, this always used to come up. So, India has had the strongest macroeconomic performance and, fastest growing country in the world. Strongest macroeconomic performance that I can in the last 10, 15 years. But in spite of that, this issue always used to come up, and it was an overhang. And to the extent that, I think to that extent, that's got sorted out. So I think all in all, thanks to our Prime Minister and our Commerce Minister, I think only for those industries that have got impacted.
Ms. Memani, while details are a little sketchy at this point in time, what we understand is from what President Trump has merchandise from them. Do you think, and which are the sectors where India would be, looking to purchase that amount of merchandise?
So I think it'll be speculating right now in terms of what's been agreed. But what was agreed as a joint statement between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump when they met in the US almost, I think, 9 or 10 months back, was that, we will be looking at $500 billion of trade by 2030. I don't think they were talking of the joint trade between India and US, and we'll have a more balanced trade between India and US. So that's something that I know was discussed and agreed between both the parties. India's total imports are about $800 billion, $850 billion. So I think to realistically look at what those numbers are, what is possible. Again, as I said, till the time the details are not there, it's hard to comment. I think what is more important to see is, how does it impact the overall trade, and how does it encourage particularly manufacturing and labor-intensive manufacturing in India? How do we become an integral part of global supply chain, and how this will positively impact Make in India. And I think in all those counts, as long as we are doing that, I think there has to be, in any trade agreement, trade deal, that both parties have to benefit, both parties have to gain. And I think as long as we view that in that spirit and avoid the red lines, which are for both the countries, I think I have no doubt that we'll have a strong trade agreement. And also, I just want to add that, India in the last 12 to 18 months, our Commerce Minister and his team have done a stellar job of doing a large number of trade agreements, particularly if you look at, whether it's Australia, New Zealand, Middle East, Europe, UK, EFTA, and it's been very clear the way they've engaged with industry, they've represented the industry extremely well, understood all the issues in detail, avoided those issues which are sensitive, or those issues which are politically not possible or not in the overall interest of the country, but try to do win-win deals within that construct and framework. So I have no doubt that even in this case, and that's why probably it's taken time, that effort and that intent has been there. And we definitely know with the engagement that they have had with industry, that it's been very positive, and they've been very effectively communicating industry's viewpoint in this, and also looking at what's in the broader interest of India and what's in the broader interest of the India-US trade deal.
Sanjay Budhia, you're chairman of the CII National Committee on Exports. Do you think that this entire announcement now brings in relief for most of the exporters, and or is there any clarification that's required for them to now go ahead and do the trade?
Yeah, as Mr. Memani has rightly said, let me also add my compliments to the Honorable Prime Minister, Commerce Minister, and the entire team for so patiently negotiating the contours and persistent with our interest, and finally, achieving and arriving at that deal last night, which is a great win-win for both the countries. I think Mr. Memani has summarized most of the things. But the question what you have asked, that are there any points which we, as an exporter, you are still pending? I think still there is no clarity on Section 232, which is imposed on particularly imports of steel, aluminium, and other things by the US. And we are very sure that with the fine print coming in, that will also be taken care, because apparently it is not very, very clear whether the Section 232 still remains. So that is one area of concern. But most of us are very, very hopeful that ultimately it should be just state 18% for overall. It should not be with any if and buts or any riders. So that is one thing. And as an exporter myself to the US, I would also like to add that the present scenario presents US and India as equal partners. Like our overseas partners, they say, it is not you are a supplier or we are a buyer, it is our partnership, and the partnership continues for years and years. And we are global value chain ourselves for many large US companies, and it has been a long-term relationship, long-term partnership. And we were all confident that these are something temporary which will go away. And now we are more than confident that this is for a long haul. And India, after signing the trade agreements with so many countries, lastly with the EU, we are very much on the high table and with respect, and that respect is going to increase every other day.
Mr. Memani, it was widely expected that the entire India-US trade deal will be in phases. The first phase would be merchandise, but it will also have some kind of framework for doing business going forward. What has been announced is so far the tariff rates which have been. Do you think that in the next couple of days or weeks we'll have the first phase of the entire bilateral trade, which was getting negotiated between two countries, being unveiled by both the leadership?
Yeah, I mean, my understanding was that it was not just for textiles or garments. I think it was across all sectors. And right now, I think we'll probably have an agreement in terms of tariffs, as US has done with other countries, and probably opening up of some sectors, which for both sides hitherto were not blocked. But I think the overall FTA, if that was your question, I think that may take almost by the end of the year to fully discuss and negotiate and thrash that out. And I think by the time that gets approved, it may well be end of the year. But I think outside of that, as far as tariff is concerned, I'm hopeful that it should get done in the not too distant future. And I think it'll be across sectors. I'm not expecting it to cover only a few sectors because it has to be comprehensive. You can't have agreement on one part of the sectors and not have agreement in other parts.
Mr. Noushad, you head the task force on footwear. Do you think the industry is now happy that there is a certainty of the tariff rate which is coming in, and the industry will be competitive to put to export to the U.S. market?
Yeah, the industry is very happy, and we sincerely thank government's effort for making this happen. And as President Memani told, because the tariff has come down from 50% to 18%. This is a sharp correction, and this will ease the cost pressure and reduce uncertainty and help Indian exporters regain the pricing competitiveness. It will also boost the confidence among exporters and international buyers. This creates a strong opportunity for Indian companies, especially MSMEs, to scale up exports, rebuild long-term buyer relationships, and plan production expansion more sustainably. To fully realize this opportunity, we need systematic demand mapping and focused export promotion support. With the right measures, India can strengthen its position and emerge as a preferred global sourcing hub for footwear in the years ahead. So once again, we thanks Commerce Minister and Prime Minister for making this happen.
Mr. Noushad, if you can also give us an indication of how the user industry, means the footwear industry, is looking at demand. We've seen a significant impact to demand coming to this industry, demand hit coming to this industry. Do you think that with this this tariff coming into effect from immediately, there is going to be that revival of demand coming back, and is the industry will the industry take some time to go back to normalized levels?
It may take some time as the rate has gone up because the major brands, they source from many countries. They shifted the order from India to Vietnam and other countries when the fare has gone up. It may take little time, but it's a big achievement, and short time we will come back.
Mr. Memani, we only have contours of what both the leadership had tweeted. Uh, uh, one of the key conditions has been that India will stop crude sourcing from Russia. We haven't heard anything from the Indian side on that particular aspect. Do you think that access to U.S. crude and the Venezuelan crude will more than compensate us for the crude that we source from Russia?
Unless till the time we don't formally hear from the government, I don't think we will be in a position to comment. I think it'll be speculation. But again, I would want to make two things. Firstly, I think it's a complex geopolitical, geoeconomic issue. So I think we have to view that in that context. And secondly, based on what we have seen in the way our government has negotiated with other countries, I have no doubt that whatever they do would be in the broader overall interest of all the stakeholders in India. And I think that, as industry, we have full confidence in the government in doing that. Whether they source, and also, as it happens, I think they will be sourcing it from the most, subject to geopolitics, geoeconomics, and other things. They will be sourcing it from the most competitive source. And if there is a strategic advantage of sourcing from one place to, or the other, I don't think there's any downside in doing that.
Mr. Budhia, how do you think the MSME sector will react to this? Do you think that they will have enough demand coming in now that there is a certainty of tariff? There was an uncompetitive edge because of the high 50% which has come in. Now that we have 18% there, they would be able to push their products across to the US markets much better.
Absolutely. As we know, India is about 30% exports from MSME, and the US is 20% of our total merchandise exports. This 87 billion actually represents 20% of India's total exports. So many MSMEs were integrated with the US market, and they were really, for last 6 to 7 months, we have seen particularly in textiles, leather, and some other sectors where there was layoffs and they were impacted, who were dependent particularly on the US market. So now the scenario is totally different, and we see total optimism, and I'm sure those medium and small industries will be definitely very positively impacted. I would also like to put a macro picture that the overall Indo-US relationship, not only in trade, I would say the sentiments were little shaky, like a movement of people from here to there and vice versa, even the students studying there. So yesterday's overall dimension has changed many uncertainties, and we are again back to be US and India as natural allies, natural partners, strategic partners. So a lot of uncertainties for long term that has gone away. So I would like to put it as a much above than the trade deal, basically.
Mr. Memani, over the last 8 to 10 months, we have, extended our relationship through free trade agreements across various geographies, including the latest one being the mother of all deals with the European Union. Do you think that, in this multipolar world, we've been able to successfully diversify our trade and diversify our markets for our own Make in India products now?
Yeah, I think that's been one of the stellar performances, one of the big achievements of the government. I think starting with Australia, New Zealand, ASEAN was already there, strengthening our relationships with Middle East, UK, EFTA, Europe, ongoing negotiations with Canada and Israel. I think it's been really outstanding in the way this has the way we have negotiated the trade agreements. I think it reflects also how both sides have ensured that they do things that are positive and constructive to the overall trade, and avoid things that are either sensitive or as we call them red lines. Avoid the red lines and just focus on those things where trade can increase, which are how we can create win-win scenarios. Secondly, what we have seen that whenever India does these trade deals, it's not just about trade, but it builds broader bridges between countries. So it's about trade, it's about technology transfer, it's about education, it's about investments, cross-border investments. So as as CII members, when we are visiting the various countries where either India has signed trade deals or is in the process of signing FTAs, it's very clear that the level of engagement and the level of enthusiasm grows very significantly. And third, I think it's also reflective that the global community wants to engage with India. And India also is very open in engagement with them. I think we've probably done the largest number of FTAs and trade deals, at least in India's history. I think this is a record, but also I don't have the exact numbers. But even globally, I think the number, the scale, and the size of trade deals that we are doing are truly incredible. I mean, if you today look at it, if US gets done, that's 30 trillion. EU was 20 trillion. UK is about 5 trillion. Rest of the other countries are 5 trillion. So if you exclude China, then you're almost talking about 85% of the global economy. And once Canada and Israel is done, that number is even larger. So I think credit to the Indian government, and also it demonstrates the strength and the respect and the quality of relationships that the government has built with other countries, and the kind of credibility that they have built.
And in your opinion, we would have held the red line here, protecting the interests of the farmers and the MSMEs while we have done this deal with the US?
I have no doubt about that.
My final question to you, Mr. Memani, is the supply chain. What we saw through the trade deal when the trade tariffs came into being is the disruption to some of the supply chain. Now that we have so many geographical trade deals which are in place, including the U.S. now, do we have a diversified supply chain for all our industries now?
Yeah, I think more than that, from a supply chain standpoint, I think it's a great opportunity for India to be an integral part of the global supply chain because as markets open up, as cross-border trade and cross-border investments grow, and also with the reforms that the government is doing, whether it's in terms of ease of doing business or improving efficiencies or factor cost of production, I think it's a great opportunity for India to become an integral part of the global supply chain for critical products or for areas where the labor intensity is very high or for advanced manufacturing. And I think that's the important part. So I think this will give a great thrust and fillip to Make in India. It will give a great thrust and fillip to manufacturing in India.
Also access to sophisticated and high-tech technology as well as part of this India USD.
Yeah, I think that is a parallel track and parallel conversation which has been going on. So I think whether you look at AI, whether you look at data centers, whether you look at defense conversations, I believe that never really got impacted because of the trade deal. I think that those conversations have been going on. Of course, as I said, whenever this trade deal happens, it gives the further impetus and further thrust. There is eagerness, engagement, keenness on both sides once something like this happens to move even faster. And India and US have a very complementary relationship. We are the largest democracies, and there is natural partnership, great people to people connect. So to that extent, I think hopefully things will move even faster.
Mr. Memani, Mr. Budhia, and Mr. Noushad, it was a pleasure talking to you today, and that was the CII representatives, giving us their perspective of the India-US trade deal. Thank you very much for joining us today and watching this special telecast. We'll be back after a short break.